right now on the National Weather Desk. It's the strongest storm anywhere on Earth this year, and today, Hurricane Melissa brings catastrophic wind, rain, and surge to Jamaica.
Historical storm for the island of Jamaica. They've never seen a Category 5 hurricane landfall.
I don't believe there's any infrastructure within this region that could withstand a Category 5 storm.
We'll take a closer look at what makes Melissa so
slides, and those can be pretty unpredictable.
and hear from people who have loved ones riding out the storm.
People are scared.
Central Florida cleans up after 18 inches of rain floods communities.
Probably a 60 to 100 foot wide swath of water flowing through.
And we'll take a deep dive into weather phobias and what you can do to overcome them.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Well, good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Eileen Whalen. A Category 5 hurricane has never made landfall in Jamaica until today. Hurricane Melissa is bringing 175-mile-per-hour winds and more than 3 feet of rain as it slams into the Caribbean island this morning. Streets across Jamaica are empty as the nation's nearly 3 million residents brace for the most powerful storm they've ever seen. Hurricane hunters from the Air Force flew into Melissa on Monday, and they captured these amazing images of the perfectly formed eye wall. But all was not calm. Another hurricane hunter flight from NOAA aborted its mission early because the turbulence was simply too dangerous. And speaking of dangerous, there is concern in Jamaica that not enough people evacuated prior to Melissa's arrival.
Could have an impact on our shores more to the western end of Jamaica. And if that were to happen, and I've said it before,
Displaced by Melissa, which now owns the distinction of being the strongest storm in the world this year. Florida meteorologist Lauren Oleski is tracking Melissa's movement.
30 miles from the center, so it's not that large in size, but obviously it's incredibly powerful right now. Tropical storm force winds extend to about, I believe, about 200 miles from the center of the storm there. Landfall expected to occur in just a few hours from now as a Cat 5. It's also then going to be making landfall in Cuba as a Category 4, and then moving across parts of the southeastern Bahamas as a Category 2. We've got hurricane warnings in effect for a good portion of the Caribbean right now. Hurricane watches, tropical storm watches in effect there too. This will be a historical storm for the island of Jamaica. They've never seen a Category 5 hurricane landfall. This will be the strongest landfalling hurricane they've ever seen. The strongest so far was a Cat 4. That was Hurricane Gilbert back in 1988, and then several unnamed hurricanes. Remember, we didn't name hurricanes until the 50s, back in the early 1900s. So they have seen Category 3 landfalls, major hurricanes, but no Cat 5s. This will be the strongest that they ever experience. Next name on our list is Nestor.
Well, unfortunately, Melissa's strength and Jamaica's geography could mean catastrophic results for the island. Emily Gracie spoke with a storm surge specialist about what makes Melissa so dangerous when it comes to storm surge, rainfall, and winds.
Hurricanes are just these amazing machines. They're just creating these chaotic oceans. If you've ever been in or near a hurricane on the ocean or on the coast, the waves are just chaotic. They're going everywhere. And in that chaos, a lot of cooler water usually upwells from underneath. I was amazed to see Melissa moving at 2 miles an hour, 3 miles an hour, and strengthening. What that means is we have really high oceanic heat content, which means the ocean is not only warm at the surface, but very warm at depth because it's stirring up the ocean. It's bringing up cooler water from underneath, and the cooler water isn't cool. It's still strengthening. I was amazed by that.
Explain the difference here when we're talking islands like Jamaica and even Cuba versus like a U.S. mainland when it comes to storm surge impacts.
A big control on storm surge is the coastal profile and the coastal shape. Where we see a broad open coastline like the U.S. Gulf Coast, we can see these storm surges spread for hundreds of miles. When we get to the islands of, say, the Caribbean or East Asia, storm surge tends to be a lot more localized. And so that's really what we'd expect here. The big concern is if the eye of the storm or the eye wall, those most intense winds around the hurricane, if that engages with any bays or harbors where it's pushing onshore wind, storm surge could funnel in incredibly quickly.
And then obviously the rainfall, especially when we're talking about terrain, with Jamaica and even Cuba and slow movement, is landslides, mudslides going to be like a huge major problem with this?
It's going to take days to cross the area. And so it looks like they could see, in general, 15 to 30 inches of rain across a wide swath, but some localized maxima getting up to 40 inches of rain. I mean, that's tremendous. If you're using the metric system in the Caribbean, that's more than a meter of rain, a lot of rainfall. And on those steep mountain slopes, that can mean mudslides, that can mean landslides. And those can be pretty unpredictable. Where you have villages and towns below the mountains, that could produce widespread damage and even fatalities.
Well, Melissa is the 34th Atlantic hurricane since 1960 to reach Category 5 status. It's also the third of the 2025 season, joining Aaron and Umberto, although neither of those made landfall. Now, only one other season on record had more than two, and that was in 2005 when Emily, Katrina, Rita, and Wilma all reached Cat 5 status. We also had two last year, Beryl and Milton. Helene peaked as a Category 4 hurricane. Well, folks with deep ties to Jamaica are anxious about family and friends who are still there. Temitope Adelaide continues our coverage from Rhode Island.
This is heartbreaking for me.
Tears building in the eyes of former state representative Marcia Ranglin-Vassell. She's monitoring coverage of her hometown, Bull Bay, Jamaica.
This is the new highway. This was built like last year.
Ranglin-Vassell in communication with loved ones back home. What are they telling you?
They were telling me that it's raining, it's windy.
Her nonprofit, Global Fund to End Childhood Hunger and Poverty, has served Jamaican youth for years. Now they are collecting food, flashlights, toiletries, and more.
We have to prepare and pray, and it's because Jamaica is a mountainous country, especially St. Thomas, the eastern part. We're looking for flood in the lower areas and a landslide in the higher ones.
Local Red Cross teams across Jamaica are already on the ground helping. Our local American Red Cross says they are closely coordinating with the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies to understand how Hurricane Melissa is affecting international Red Cross societies and where they can support in the coming days and weeks.
Hopefully we're doing so much better than 1988 with Gilbert. But it's going to be a lot. People are scared, but I can tell you one thing about us Jamaicans is that we're resilient. But it's going to be all hands on deck.
Well, you can find the latest information on Melissa on our social pages throughout the day, so follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to stay informed. Well, storms unrelated to Melissa dumped up to 18 inches of rain on Central Florida Sunday, and that triggered flash flooding that washed out roads and inundated some homes. David Jones has more from Central Florida.
Devastation across Lake County, massive flooding leading to washed out roads.
I stepped out of my backyard and I thought that the wind was rushing through the trees, and yet they weren't moving.
As of right now, because of the street closures, all of the downtown Mount Dora businesses are being affected.
Megan Milanese is Emergency Management Director for Lake County.
Sediment analysis actually is showing that Donnelly Street was about 6 to 8 feet underwater at the peak flooding, which caused a lot of this damage.
It will not be open for Christmas. I can almost guarantee that.
Mayor James Homich says massive flooding from damage at a nearby retirement village played a role, but the city is still analyzing.
Waterman Village has two basically 40-foot ravines destroyed behind the homes.
There was probably a 60 to 100 foot wide swath of water flowing through.
I guess the city of Mount Dora is going to have to do a new road project.
Our topography is very different than most of Florida, so we have problems that they saw in the mountains with the other hurricanes, that massive amount of water.
The wall of water also washed out Wolf Branch Road in unincorporated Lake County. Similarly, an estimated long time frame for repairs. County staff say they're analyzing the possibility of a temporary solution.
And a suspected tornado struck Mexico Beach on Florida's Gulf Coast early yesterday morning. The winds ripped roofs off of buildings and downed trees and power lines. 2 people were hurt. And you may recall Mexico Beach suffered catastrophic damage from Hurricane Michael back in 2018. Coming up here on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at ways that you can overcome common weather phobias, and we'll help you better understand the science behind earthquakes.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti. Look at the Northeast. We have a decent day on tap in the Northeast. Today, most areas will top out at seasonable levels, running in the mid to, in some cases, upper 50s. What you don't see in that map is the wind, though. The wind's going to be a little gusty during the course of the afternoon. There will be more clouds over southeastern parts of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Cape Cod, and the islands here. A little system is going to be passing by offshore. I think we have a greater chance for getting some rainfall area-wide in the Northeast for Thursday into Friday.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. A passing disturbance to bring some clouds and a few showers on the southern part of the area, but everywhere from, say, Baltimore northward, we're likely going to see it a little drier. Clouds will be thickening up going into Wednesday ahead of the next disturbance, which is going to bring some heavy rain to the region on late Wednesday into Thursday. Temperatures will stay cool, 50s to low 60s Tuesday afternoon. On Wednesday, we'll be several degrees cooler with all the clouds around.
Hi, meteorologist Jennifer Collins with a look at your southeast forecast. As we head through the middle of the week, a cold front boundary sweeps across the southeast. This will bring the chance for rain across the Mississippi River Valley through Tuesday before moving into Alabama and Georgia and North Florida heading into Wednesday. This front will usher in cooler air for the end of the week. Afternoon highs, though, on Tuesday in the 50s and 60s for the Carolinas, the low 70s for the northern Gulf Coast, and the low to mid 80s across South Florida.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
An atmospheric river brought heavy snow to the mountains east of Seattle over the weekend. There was enough to shut down I-90 following numerous spinouts. A waterspout over Orange Beach, Alabama eventually became a tornado on Sunday. And this sun pillar appeared over the weekend in Arkansas. The reflection of sunlight off tiny ice crystals floating in the atmosphere creates the illusion.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on TikTok.
Well, tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, they're all scary weather events, and earthquakes, although not weather related, they can still be just as frightening. Meteorologist Mitchell Coombs digs into the science of earthquakes.
To learn a little bit more about the science of earthquakes, I came out here to the Montana Bureau of Mines and Geology here at Montana Tech.
An earthquake is slippage along a fracture in the Earth's crust. The fracture is typically called a fault.
As for the faults that create earthquakes, there are three different types or orientations. The first type of fault is known as a thrust or reverse fault. These occur when the Earth's crust is squeezed together and one side lifts up. The second variety and most common type in western Montana is known as a normal fault. These faults occur when the Earth's crust is being pulled apart slowly. Generally, one side will slip down. Over geologic time, you get results like our beautiful mountain ranges. This 20-foot scarp behind me is the result of a normal fault earthquake. The third type is known as a strike-slip fault. These vertical faults slide past each other horizontally. The most well-known version of one of these is the San Andreas Fault in California.
When one side moves a little bit past the other side, that sudden slipping motion generates seismic waves that radiate out away from that source through the Earth.
Here is a good visual analogy to represent this. I'll take this rock and toss it into the lake. The resultant splash is the earthquake, and the ripples that go out away from it are the seismic waves traveling through the earth. The one difference, seismic waves are moving much faster.
There are three types. The Earth being a solid, it will transmit what we call P waves, compressional waves. And P waves traveling through the air we perceive as sound waves, but they always travel the fastest. Then there are the slower S waves, and they are shear waves and can only exist in a solid material like the rocks of the Earth. Typically only seen for larger earthquakes at greater distances are the surface waves, which are waves that travel along the surface of the Earth.
All right, well, take a look at these huge wind turbines, and these might be the ones that come to mind when you think of them. But did you know that there's a huge market worldwide for smaller ones? Well, we take you to San Antonio, where an inventor named Dan Marsh says he's found a way to revolutionize the energy industry. Matt Roy shares his story.
If you want to innovate and do something great, you can't have rules. You got to break them. I can't look at what's been normal for 100 years. In order to change, you got to take bold steps.
For Dan, those bold steps meant rethinking personal wind turbines. Not the giant ones in farms, but small units that power homes.
A lot of it was I didn't like paying my electric bill. So, and it's funny because I think at that time my electricity bill went down to about 20 or 25 bucks a month.
Some of you can probably relate. When he retired 4 years ago, he turned his passion for renewable energy into action.
When they spin too fast, they make too many volts, and too many volts can burn up controllers, it can melt devices, it can catch on fire itself. There's got to be a better way.
And now, with Dan's company, Pirate Wind Turbines, there just might be.
We're able to control the volts no matter the speed, no matter how high the wind blows.
To test it, Dan took unconventional approaches, let's say. From beach trials and backyard experiments to strapping a propeller on his truck and hitting the highway.
A lot of the technology is decades old, and I decided to be the one to jump out off a ledge and see if I can change it.
His stable volt technology keeps turbines from overloading. Watch this demo. A light bulb hooked up to a turbine engine. Without his tech, it nearly explodes from too many volts. With his system turned on, it stays bright and steady. He also won an innovation contest at Texas State University, which netted him some cash and a mentor.
The technology has merit. I do think that if he finds the right partner and the right investor, this can be really, really interesting.
And that's the next step. Finding an investor that can help Dan get to his end goals.
I would rather just license technology to someone that has larger manufacturing capabilities than I could ever dream of, and sit on the beach in Italy for a couple of years.
Well, fearing severe weather is very common, but sometimes healthy fears can develop into a debilitating phobia. Emily Gracie sat down with a psychologist to learn how phobias develop and what can be done to overcome them.
Society will impart an idea of like desensitizing you to weather. And so the person who has acquired a fear or phobia actually feels outcasted or singled out. They feel obscure, like they're different because everyone else around them isn't mirroring.
Are fears and phobias always coming out of some sort of trauma, or can they be kind of created in the world that you just live in? Like if your parents are like, watch out for thunderstorms, are you going to develop a fear of thunderstorms?
I think it depends on how you see your parents respond to a thunderstorm, right? It's going to be a learned behavior in that situation. So yes, I don't think it always has to be traumatic, but if my mom grabs me and my younger siblings into a closet for 9 hours every time there's a thunderstorm, like that's going to cultivate a response and something in learned helplessness that I'll acquire from my parents.
As a meteorologist, what can I do to help someone that does have a phobia, rather than saying, well, when the thunder roars, go indoors, or if there's a tornado warning, take shelter? What else can I offer?
What the person is seeking is safety. And there are so many things that provide you safety outside of what's within your control and outside of your control. So designating, when you're indoors, get your safe blanket. Find your 3 safe girlfriends that you're going to be on a phone call with, and we'll have a little FaceTime party with some tea. Find a safe movie for you to watch, or things that impart a sense of safety. But we can create our own version of safety. So in the middle of a storm, how do I create a sense of something that feels comforting to me? Comfort is still on the table, even if safety isn't guaranteed.
Well, overcoming trauma associated with phobias is the subject of a brand new episode of our podcast, Off the Radar. So to hear more from Dr. Rose on how to recover from a weather phobia, check it out anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcasts. And as we head to break, a flight over the North Carolina Arboretum in Asheville.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Sarah Converse. We do have a cold front on the way out in the plains. A low pressure system is going to bring some rain, especially west of the Mississippi. So places like Lincoln dealing with some rain for today, 51. Springfield cloudy, 55. And ahead of that, we'll be in those low 60s, like in Columbus at 60 degrees. That rain will continue to spread as that low pressure system moves into the Ohio River Valley.
Well, a good Tuesday morning to you. Meteorologist Chris Uche looking at our forecast today across the region. We have this cold front that is going to be pushing south through the day. Big drop in temperatures behind it, gusty winds. Some showers or a few thunderstorms from Arkansas, Louisiana down to southeast Texas. We head into Wednesday's forecast. All that commotion moves out of the region. See a very chilly start to the day. And look at these highs on Wednesday. Highs in the 50s and 60s for much of the region.
Well, hi there and a good Tuesday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. You can see the heat building again in the desert Southwest, back into the 90s for Tuesday in Phoenix and 80s right around coastal San Diego. Warmer still as you head into the Central Valley. That's because we have a round of offshore winds going there, aka similar to Santa Ana's, and that's going to bring up the fire danger there. On the way to the west coast here in Seattle, rain due in Tuesday night. And that's the scene from here.
I'm Donnie Cox, Chief Meteorologist at News 12 in Newbern, North Carolina, and you're watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, what is a gustnado and how does it differ from a tornado? Meteorologist Joy Bettenhausen shares the answer on Instagram.
Okay, to get a gustnado, you need a gust front, and essentially that's a huge push of air that we can get from a weakening, strong thunderstorm. You've got warmer air on one side, cooler air on the other, and the winds converging kind of near that front create that boundary. Now along this gust front, you have that warmer, moist air heading into the storm, and on the backside, you've got that cooler kind of outflow air, sometimes characterized by precipitation. Now rotation may form along that gust front, which would be a gustnado. They're usually short-lived and they don't reach all the way up to the cloud base. So you can see there's a clear difference between a tornado and a gustnado. Tornado, you need the severe thunderstorm or rotating updraft. Gustnado, their storms are usually weakening, so you need that gust front. Tornadoes are cloud-based and extend to the surface.
Well, we'd love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back.